Okay guys, so we'll start with the DXY. So it's been a bit of a indecisive week this week. We haven't really progressed much. We've still seen a lot of corrective behavior as prices headed lower, but I've been pretty bullish. If you didn't catch the last week's analysis, I spoke about some long opportunities on the DXY, particularly anywhere within this zone, more so between 99.4 to 99, and price is currently resting in that zone. So I do like the buys. We are quite corrective, which tells me that we're not really seeing much force to the downside, so buying opportunities do make sense. However, I wouldn't be as aggressive with the continuation. Yes, potentially the trend could continue with the DXY, but if you do look at the bigger picture, the price is basically within a range, and until we do break this resistance just above 100, I wouldn't say dollar's very bullish, especially on a high time frame perspective. But of course, over the past few weeks, we've been trailing to the upside, so the plan is to see if we can take advantage of that, and we are trading at a nice area for that as well. So in terms of entries, I'll be looking to see if price can go sweep the lows here and then look for entries there. Every time we have a correction and price does sweep the lows, we tend to see a bit of upside. So that's where I want to position myself. And if you take that into euro dollar, pretty much the exact same, but the inverse. So again, looking at the bigger picture, Euro's been pretty flat as well, or slightly bullish as well. We have had a nice bearish trend, but pushing into a nice supply area, which we don't really want to see Euro break. If it does break, I'll just say this is a very indecisive structure. I wouldn't even necessarily say I'm bullish, just because of how choppy the market has been. I do want this trend to continue to take advantage of that direction. So with euro dollar as well, we've been super correct to the upside. Again, looking for another run to the highs, see if you can respect that turnaround. And there's a lot of room to the downside if these moves do play out. Dollar does really see that strength. Pound USD, another USD pair, which I do like the look of. Really nice big zone there. This has been trending well. We've broken through some big structure recently too. So again, for pound, I want to see a pullback into this zone, 1.33. If you can respect that well, I do think there's a lot of downside. And equally, there could be some nice buys to start off the week. We have been seeing some bullish structure here on the 4-hour chart. Perhaps if we can maintain this low, which of course gave us the high, this could be a smart place to long pound USD back to that zone before looking for the reversal later on. So if you're a bit more intraday, I would suggest keep an eye on some buys to start the week off. But again, the bigger move, I do like it with the bears. In terms of gold and silver, very kind of mixed week, very bullish, then very bearish, very volatile. I do like where we're coming back into. This is basically where we had that big surge of momentum from for gold. So a lot of congestion here, then suddenly the big breakout. We've come back to test that same zone, so naturally looking for buys in this area. Now, do I expect gold to push back to highs? No, not really. I would say we're in a bit of a mixed environment right now for gold. Still seeing aggressive selling pressure, but still seeing aggressive bullish pressure. Not quite enough energy to get us back to highs, but not enough to see new lows. So it's a bit of a mixed sentiment right now with gold. So basically just looking to buy low, sell high, and take advantage of the meat in the middle. So I would say as we come back to this zone, looking for us to become a bit more corrective, because we have been quite aggressive on the way down. Looking for us to become a bit more corrective, perhaps sweep the lows. If you want to be a bit more specific with the zone, I would suggest keep an eye on this 4-hour area here, 40.20 to 39.60. If you can respect that zone, I like the buys. I wouldn't even be looking to push it all the way back to highs here. I would say this kind of area is where I'll be looking 41.40, 41.50, because direction is not particularly clear. Likewise with silver as well, direction not particularly clear. I mean, yes, the high time frames are still bullish, same with gold too, but it's not like we're in the same environment as we have been. We're still seeing aggressive selling pressure, not quite enough to get to some new highs. So the buys still do make sense, but again, I wouldn't be banking on home runs all the way to new all-time highs again for either gold and silver. So still like the buys from these zones, 49.50 to 47.50, but again, if you want to be a bit more specific, you focus on that area. But looking for buys for both gold and silver next week. Okay, so next we're going to move on to the yen pair. So the yen pairs as a whole still very bullish. Again, just jump to the daily chart, provides a lot of context in terms of trend, momentum. You can see if the pound yen was still steaming to the upside. However, we are looking a little bit more corrective now. We've been trapped in this range. We haven't seen new highs since the 8th of October, so price is struggling a little bit. So if you are intraday, I do think there are opportunities on both sides of the market, longs and shorts. Of course, longs I do expect to play out bigger. So if you're looking for swing trades, I'll focus primarily on the longs. But if you are looking for intraday trades, I do think looking for shorts, if we drop to the lower time frame, back at resistance here, very key level. Market's quite flat I'm not really seeing the momentum anymore. That looks like a smart place for a short, provided there's evidence for rejection. And even the highs up there, 205, 500, if price can rip through the highs slightly, start to see some rejection, there's a good chance we do pull back soon afterwards. So shorts, a bit more aggressive, but I do think they make sense. Of course, if you want to stick with the trend, longs are your best bet, but I would wait for bigger pullbacks back into 201 or even 199 down here. I don't really want to get involved here. That's where the noise is, very middle, very range bound. So I want to be at the extremes, either selling at the highs, buying at the lows. And of course, if you're pro trend, you want to be focusing on the buyings. Dollar yen, same case as well, although it has been a bit smoother. And again, dollar hasn't really seen its strength yet come into play. So if that does, maybe dollar yen does kick off. I like this zone floating below. This is actually the same level I talked about last week. A nice demand zone. We had the gap. I said if price can retrace and come back and test that zone, that will be a nice place for a buy. I haven't seen that happen yet. We are struggling at the highs. Perhaps we do roll over first half of the week and then potentially get the buys later on. This is a very congested area anyway, so I don't really want to be buying there. Bigger pullback back into the swing low. As long as we can stay above this, the longs look really good. Euro yen's case was very bullish this week. Really nice move. You can see in the daily chart higher highs and higher lows, so self-explanatory in terms of direction. Shorts again makes sense. We had euro pullback, so if you're looking for that mean reversion, there's possibility there. Of course, a bit more aggressive, but there is some downside opportunity if you want to stick with the trend. These nice demand zones to keep an eye on. Basically, as long as euro yen stays above that low, the trend is still very much intact. So 178.5, 177 key areas to look at. We've had a bit of momentum there at the end of the week. Perhaps it might be the start of a pullback, so keep an eye on those areas. And Swiss yen, very bullish as well, arguably even more bullish than euro yen, creating highs. Perhaps again, there could be some shorts to anticipate a pullback. Again, very aggressive trade, but if you are looking for longs, anywhere within the zone looks good. For now, we can just focus on the retest of the high. And if you want to be a bit more aggressive, especially a bit intraday, this 194 demand zone looks good. Really nice push. Haven't come back to retest it. Looks like we're doing that now. So perhaps again intraday, that could be a smart place for a buy. If we do see a deeper pullback, there's opportunities there at 192.5 as well. So yen pair is very bullish, just still looking to flow with the trend. Okay, so now on to the crosses. So there's two crosses I spoke about last week, which are carrying forward into this week in terms of opportunities, and also I like a third one, which we'll get into in a moment. But New Zealand CAD still looking very bearish. I talked about the momentum at the end of last week, I believe. Yeah, we closed last week's candle very, very bearish there. I do think we'll likely see more downside. The trend is starting to pick up momentum. We've got this low here at 0.78274. I do think it's likely to be tested. So the bias is very, very much short bias and looking for more downside. In terms of the zones I'm looking at, I've highlighted two areas, big areas, which have caused big shifts in momentum, a lot of consolidation, spat out a lot of momentum. Likewise with that area there too. So if we want to be a bit more specific, so we're not kind of just looking at the whole zone altogether, I'll look at these two areas. So 0.795 to 0.798. 0.8 to 0.803. Those are the two zones I'll want price to be looking to react to. If it does break above, I'll be a bit more concerned with the bias. But we've been pretty corrective on the way up. So again, I want price to probably flatten a little bit, spike a little bit higher. And then that's the opportunity I'm looking for. Even this zone or the zone higher up. Both look very good, both pointing down, momentum strong. Keep a close eye on New Zealand CAD. Pound CAD, similar situation, a lot of momentum in recent weeks. A lot of pound pairs have been heading down, so primarily looking to short the pound pairs still. And pound CAD has just been moving sideways, which I do like. The momentum's still there, but we have basically come into a bit of a pause period, which price could reverse. As long as we don't see any significant bullish momentum like this, I'm looking to short, and especially coming back to this area. So we've got price support, hasn't come back for a retest, and we've got a really nice supply zone, which of course really kicked us off with that bearish move. So as long as we can be a bit corrective on the way up, I'm expecting a little high to form in a continuation. After all, pound CAD, if you zoom out, is a very corrective market. So I'm not expecting clean price action, clean retest. I'm expecting us to spend a bit of time in areas. So I like how price is moving. It's quite flat. There could be a lot of early sellers in the market, the highs. If we can run that, I do think there's opportunity to the downside, and risk reward looks really good back to these lows and potentially further. And also pound Aussie looks really, really good. Similar setup to pound CAD. We do have a lovely bearish trend in. Momentum's picked up recently. Again, another pound pair, so the bias is very much there. Really nice supply zone, which did hold end of last week and did give us a nice continuation. Unfortunately, no entry to get into the trade, so I'm looking to see if we can come back and revisit, perhaps a bit of a double top. As long as we don't suddenly break through this with some momentum, I'm happy to be looking to short these highs. Similar expectations back to the low and probably a lot lower prices as well. But from a trading perspective, if we can get it back there, that looks like a great setup in my opinion. So short some pound CAD, short some pound Aussie, short some New Zealand CAD. Okay, so if we take a look at the indices, bit of a mixed week for this one. We started off very bullish, gapped up and had a lot of momentum. I was talking about some intraday longs, but as momentum picked up, we broke out of this descending channel. As we can see, this is the S&P. We picked up momentum very well. However, midweek, we lost that momentum and in a spectacular way, we fell off quite aggressively. However, the trend is still up. I like, of course, looking at the higher time frames, really understanding the narrative and the trend at play. The market is still very, very bullish. We have this makeshift trend line, which is doing a pretty good job. I'd say as long as we stay above that, the trend is still quite aggressively bullish. If we break through that, we can be a bit more cautious with that trend. Perhaps we're going for a bigger pullback. But we do have this low here from last week, which I'm looking to see if the market can spike into. We do have this nice zone as well, which did basically become a catalyst for that last big bullish move. I would suggest if the market could come back, retest that support, perhaps even take out that wick low. I do think that's a smart place for a long, and especially if you're looking for a swing trade. This is starting to turn into a bit of a range here, so you want to focus your efforts at the low, away from all that noise, where you can really refine your risk well, and potentially if big moves happen, you're positioned well to take advantage of that. And basically a lot of the indices, major US indices, are showing the same picture. US 30 did actually create new highs, so this one was quite bullish. But again, it's had a bit of a bearish end to the week, pulling back into this low, so I've highlighted two areas to keep a close eye on. Again, looking at the bigger picture, and the makeshift trend line kind of keeping us bullish. I would say as long as we're still above that, I would be very bullish on the S&P, NAS, Dow Jones as well. So coming back into this low, I'll see if you can respect it, maybe even spike through as well. If you come a little bit deeper, I like this zone here too, around 45,800. Still, as long as we stay above those zones, very, very bullish. And for the NASDAQ, this one's already spiked through. I think that's already given us a really nice opportunity for a long, really nice wick through that prior week's low, respects that demand low. We've had a really strong rejection, so momentum's picked up anyway. So the ship might have sailed for NASDAQ, so you might want to focus on the S&P or Dow Jones. If the NAS does come back down, then perhaps another opportunity can present for some more longs, but the idea is still there. If we go to the daily chart, momentum still up. Again, makeshift trend line, that's keeping us relatively bullish. Still looking for us to go and tag the highs there. I would say if you break the trend line, break that low, then yeah, we'll be cautious with the buys. But for now, still looking to take some longs back to the highs for the US indices. Okay, so on to the cryptocurrencies. We have been pretty bearish for BTC this week. I did talk about the retest of this zone. Nice push, pullback, really strong push to the downside. We're starting to create some consistency with these lower lows and lower highs. So the plan was very bearish on BTC, and we did react really well at this level and saw some conviction lower, and we're continuing to break to the downside. Lower lows, lower highs continuously. So of course, BTC, if we scale to the weekly chart, is still a very bullish market, but we're definitely in some counter momentum situation right now. So the plan again for next week is still looking to short until something changes. I mean, we do have a really nice zone here, which I do have my eye on just below 90k. I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind, but for now the market is looking pretty bearish, and the opportunities do rely on the shorts. So looking for a pullback. We've got a lovely zone here. We can be a bit more specific on the 4-hour chart. I'd probably focus either on the retest of this low or on this last area here, which gave us the move down. So just below 100k, big psychological level, and 101, 102, the areas I'll look at. Ethereum, same situation as well. Big zone below us where we could definitely have a bounce from, but you can see for Ethereum, consistent lower lows and lower highs for a while now. we reacted pretty well with this zone here, just about tagged it, and now price is looking pretty bearish as well. So it's creating another supply zone. It hasn't taken out the lows there quite yet, so I would like price to actually take out that wick low before we do get the pullback. But if that does happen, we've got a really nice opportunity there. If not, I will actually keep an eye on the longs, not because I'm optimistic about a push back to the all-time highs, but there's likely going to be a bounce at this zone. Nice consolidation, rip to the upside aggressively. There's a good chance we at least pull back here for Ethereum. So some counter opportunities there for Ethereum. And XRP, I'm treating this more like a range. We're not really seeing the bearish momentum like Ethereum or BTC is doing. This is a bit more stagnant. So as I described last week, it's a very flat market. I would suggest if you push back to the lows, I think this is still a smart place for a long, and a push back to highs, still a smart place for a short. We're looking to operate at the extremes and kind of miss out the middle bit. So XRP quite flat, not really seeing that aggressive behavior. Yes, I would still say we're quite bearish as well. We have been trending down since the high of 20th of July, so we do have that natural bearish tint, but it's not really aggressive. So shorts at highs, buys at lows still makes sense. Okay, so for my top 3 setups next week, New Zealand CAD to the downside, really nice supply zone. We do have that overwhelming direction from the higher time frames to support the idea. There's room to the downside, so risk reward looks pretty favorable, and you've got 2 key zones to look at, and the pullback has been quite corrective, so the odds are we eventually do put a lower high and to continue lower. So keep an eye on those areas for New Zealand CAD. The second pair I would say is dollar yen, still very much a clear uptrend. Momentum's picked up on the daily chart. We're still seeing higher highs and higher lows, and I'm still predicting some USD strength as well. So the analysis and the confluences do point up. We've got a really nice zone trading underneath these lows. Again, potentially taking out some early buys, test a more significant area. Perhaps we can catch that low, swing it back to highs and maybe further. And finally, pound USD. I actually like the buys and the sells for this one as well. So some more intra-day, intra-week buys at the lows around 1.31. Perhaps we might have missed that boat already, but if it does come back down, keep an eye out. And for the bigger swing, which I'm very interested in, again, looking for the continuation of this last bearish leg from this high to that low, looking for the next low high for, of course, a push back to the next low and anywhere within that zone. But the initial focus will be the retest of the prior low, which is around 1.327. So very bearish for pound USD, longs for dollar yen, and shorts for New Zealand CAD. Top 3 setups I'll be focused on next week. So if you found this analysis useful, guys, please be sure to drop a like, comment down below which pairs you're looking to trade for next week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out the channel memberships. Members only videos there, also trade ideas there too. So if you're enjoying the content, check that out. But guys, appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the new week.